We're approaching the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre, one of the worst incidents of domestic violence in American history. A lot of people preparing to reflect on and remember the massacre, and others are working to make sure that we never forget it. Joining me now is Alicia Latimer. She is the African American Resource Center Coordinator at the Tulsa City County Library. Alicia, good morning to you.
Good morning.
So you've been educating people for years about the massacre, but it seems like people are just kind of coming around to it. Why are so many people unaware of this horrible thing that happened right in our backyard?
I think that there was what they call a conspiracy of silence. In fact, I don't just think it, I know that there was a conspiracy of silence surrounding what happened in 1921. There was shame. There was also a fear of persecution, both for the victims and for the perpetrators. So Tulsa was, it was a shameful event to burn down 35 city blocks, to murder up to 300 people in the streets of our city. So the people did not want to talk about it, and there was also the threat of continued violence. And family members in the African American community, which was the target of these events, were fearful that their children would be angry, bitter, traumatized even more by what had happened.
How has the education and the teaching of the massacre evolved over the years here? I mean, this was something that was not taught in our school system until fairly recently, correct?
No, it was not. In fact, I came to the library 15 years ago, and the YWCA here in Tulsa contacted myself and a coworker and said that they saw the need for there to be training and teaching about what happened in 1921. At most, a textbook might have a paragraph about the 1921, at that time, what was called a riot. But we have since, the name has recently been changed to massacre, although there are some people who object to that. But there was no teaching about it in the school systems, and my children grew up not being taught about it, even though they grew up here in Tulsa. I married my husband in 1977, and I learned about it till 10 years later when my mother-in-law casually mentioned it. I was horrified, because imagine burning down 35 city blocks totally, and then try to figure out the impact that that would have on a community.
Just unimaginable that it wasn't even mentioned around here. I just
No.
still can't wrap my mind around it. You're one of the many
Right.
people that right now that's working to bring it to a younger generation, working to educate. When we spoke a few weeks ago, we talked about instructional kits for teachers. Can you tell us more about what you're doing to bring this to more people?
Yeah, the YWCA, when they contacted me, were going to create some 1921 race massacre kits. So the Tulsa City County Library stepped in, purchased all those kits with our library trust, purchased seven 1921 race massacre kits, because we had a problem. The instructors had various viewpoints about teaching it. Some said, we shouldn't teach it. The students will be angry. It may cause problems among the students, racial issues, etc. There was one teacher we heard of who told the students that it never happened, the same way some people have said that the Holocaust did not happen. There were some people who said the most interesting thing of all, which was, we don't know where to get information. And I like to laugh about that and say, never ever tell a librarian that you don't know where to get information. Those were information specialists. So we accepted the challenge. We made those kits for educators who said, well, we don't know where we get the materials. And we said, well, no, here it is. Well, we don't have lesson plans. No, these kits are full of lesson plans. Well, we don't know where to get videos. No, they're full of videos. There are postcards that were sent around the country, horrible postcards that were sent all around the United States. There was no shame in it for some people. So we have someone from another state who sent us a package of 16 of the postcards that were sent around the country concerning that. They're horrific, but that story is available to be told. And now the library has Race Massacre Kit that was for educators. Now we have them for the public. We have empathy kits for children, so that a teacher who says, I don't know how to teach a young child. No, we have an empathy kit that talks not only about the 1921 race massacre, but civil rights overall among various grade levels. So those needs are being met in many, many ways.
Yeah, absolutely no excuse here at this point.
No, 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 no,
None
no.
whatsoever. I want to ask you, House Bill 1775, a lot of talk about this. How do you think that will impact the way that educators teach the massacre moving forward?
I am also a member of the Centennial Commission and the John Hope Franklin Center for Racial Reconciliation, along as part of my duties as the African American Resource Center coordinator for Tulsa City County Library. And there are many who understand the unspoken intimidation that can cause for a teacher who wants to speak truth to power. These things happen, they're unpleasant, but we cannot remain silent about them, or in case the way that the bill is written can be is confusing. It says, well, certain people should not be made to feel, it shouldn't name certain people as perpetrators or whatever. So the language is not clear. So there are teachers who would feel somewhat intimidated by this language. And of course, we all know that the library systems as a whole throughout the time and throughout the United States are not in favor of any type of censorship. We've got to talk about sensitive topics. We've got to talk about uncomfortable topics, and race is one of those topics that are at the forefront in our nation today. So what do we teach our children if we avoid the subject or speak in coded terms and say, well, some people did this and some people experienced that, rather than to be forthright and honest about what really, really has happened and must never happen again.
And hopefully teachers still feel free to teach this subject. It's very important that our children here in our state know our history, and if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it, right? So.
Oh yes, that's been said many times, and it's not just the racial matters. It's the whole gamut of people. We're talking about sexuality. We're talking about uncomfortable topics that need to be discussed. Because if you don't teach it from a safe place, then who will teach it? Who's willing to teach it from another source that may not be accurate or safe for the children to learn in an open environment?
All right, Alicia Latimer, we appreciate your time this morning and your insight. Thank you so much for keeping the legacy of this horrible event alive and teaching it to future generations. We appreciate it.
Oh yes, proud and happy to do it.
All right, thank you so much. And we do want to remind you here, make sure you tune in this Wednesday for our special presentation coming up here, Chronicle Grit of Greenwood. It airs 9 p.m. only on KOCO 5. You're going to hear more from Alicia, massacre descendants, and exclusive interviews from survivors that haven't been seen in decades. Again, that's Wednesday, May 26th, only here on KOCO 5. A very, very important special. Make sure you tune in.